How's it going, traders? Hopefully you guys enjoy this weekly Forex forecast, and make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. All right, starting things off with the US dollar call report. The past week, the banks got rid of 1,700 long positions, and they also added 2,200 short positions. And remember, if you do want this call report spreadsheet, links are in the description to the Patreon down below. So looking at the daily chart here, we've just continued the upward momentum on the US dollar. We got a new daily demand zone down here, so it's very possible we see the US dollar pull down to this daily demand, and this would be, one of your dip buying opportunities for the US dollar to continue with this overall trend. So keep in mind that daily demand zone right there is pretty significant. If you come over to let's go over to a 1 hour chart first. We have lost a little momentum here on the 1 hour chart, but in my opinion, that's completely fine, because if we come over to the 4 hour chart, momentum is still up. Yes, there's a demand zone down here. We could pull back to this demand zone where we could also look for a dip buying opportunity coming out of that 4 hour demand zone. But it's also very possible this gets removed, it pushes back down to this daily demand zone down here, where we can get a better dip buying opportunity. But right now, all I'm seeing on the US dollar is strong trends to the upside. 4 hour demand zone down here for a good dip buying opportunity, and if this one fails, we'll have another one right here. So all signs are pointing up on the US dollar, especially if you're just looking at this weekly trend. So right now, I think shorting the dollar is very risky. I would just continue to look for those dip buying opportunities on some of the US dollar pairs. All right, looking at EURUSD, and I just want to do my own trade review here. I took a trade in Euro right here at this 1 hour area of supply, got filled and let the trade run out. Just wanted to show you guys a quick trade review. So I basically took this 1 hour supply zone short. It's not the best looking zone. It's actually kind of a weird looking trade compared to what I'm used to taking, but I took it based on the overall trends, and I had a very nice 3-to-1 trade here. So just wanted to share that with you guys. And if you guys want my zones just like this, check out the YouTube or Patreon membership. We also have a tier 2 level where we go over a private forecast every Sunday. You can get custom analysis on any chart. And you can, private message me questions about trading. So definitely check that out. Links are in the description to the YouTube or Patreon membership. So one of the reasons I took this 1 hour demand zone or supply zone trade is because if you look at the top left chart and the bottom left chart, we have a weekly downtrend and a daily downtrend as well. So that's why I traded short along with the trend on the 1 hour chart. So hopefully that makes sense there. Looking at the call reports for Euro, the past week the banks added 7,700 longs, and they also added 13,980 short positions. So now that we have these weekly and daily trends, there was one trade to take, and it was the one I took essentially. So now we have to wait for new zones to be formed. If you come to a 4 hour chart, there is a little 4 hour supply zone right here and right here. I think it's completely fine to look for 15-minute confirmation coming off of either one of these zones. So if it comes up to this 4 hour supply zone, you could definitely look for a short, but if you don't get it, it's all good because there's supply right above. So mark out these two 4 hour zones. If you're a YouTube or Patreon member, you will have these zones or any new zones that are formed along the way. But you could definitely look for confirmation in this whole general area here on the euro. And that's pretty much all I see. You're just continuing to trade with that weekly and daily downtrend. I'm glad I got that trade off there. I was a little bit hesitant, but I ended up just pulling the trigger and it worked out very well. So hopefully you guys can get a nice little trade coming off of these 4 hour zones. I know I will definitely be looking for trades in that area to the short side. XAUUSD gold forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 906 longs and they added 11,000 short positions. Now, if you look at the top two charts, this chart and this chart, we have the weekly chart. We actually just broke this weekly demand, and we actually broke this daily demand. So right now, gold is looking extremely weak in my opinion. I actually would probably start to look for short positions on gold. So if you come over to a daily chart here, we broke the daily demand, left us with daily supply. So if price does sharply pull back up to here, we could certainly look for a little 1 hour confirmation trade coming off of that daily area of supply. And in last week's forecast, I pointed out this 4 hour supply zone right here. And if you look, I talked about how in order to look for longs, because I was looking for longs in gold, we're going to have to see this removed, this 4 hour supply zone and this downward trend line. So that's what I was waiting for on longs. But if you look, we had a beautiful reaction off of this 4 hour supply zone. So just wanted to show you guys the accuracy of these zones. This zone has shown much significance based on this huge move down. So I'm very happy I waited for that supply zone to be removed because I did not get involved. And that's why confirmation is extremely important in trading. So unfortunately, I did not get a beautiful short trade off that supply zone, but I'm sure somebody did. So congratulations to you guys. So yeah, I kind of stopped looking for longs on gold once all of this happened. We had a little flip zone down here. So as far as short positions go, the only thing that I see that's remotely decent is this little 4-hour supply zone right here. Since we have a weekly downtrend, this supply zone is technically valid as a set and forget trade. If you don't know what set and forget trading is, check out my trading tips playlist. Link is in the description. I have a few videos on set and forget trading. It is essentially where you would just take a trade here, stop loss above, and just let it play out. Kind of like the EURUSD trade I just showed you guys that I took. So you could either look to set and forget this zone or look for a 15-minute confirmation coming off of that supply zone. Other than that, that's pretty much all I see here on gold as far as any short position trades go. And if we end up breaking that supply zone, like I said earlier, we have this daily supply zone right here where we could look to short that zone if the 4-hour supply zone fails. But gold is definitely looking very, very weak right now. USDJPY forecast, and really quick, in last week's forecast, just wanted to point this out to you guys. One of the things I do take pride in my weekly Forex forecast is I'm not always showing you guys, oh, there's a setup here, buy this, sell this, right? There's a lot of things that I show you guys that I think are very important. For example, in last week's forecast, I talked about this 4-hour supply zone right here. And if you look, I talked about how we need to see this removed before getting in long, and look at the reaction we had off of that supply zone. So if you just kind of, jumped the gun early and you bought here, you probably were stopped out. That's why it's extremely important to understand supply and demand and know which zones have to move. And that is also a reason I created the YouTuber Patreon membership. So definitely check that out. You can get all of these zones on a daily basis. So now we've actually had this supply zone removed, which has left us with this demand zone, but this demand zone is very poor quality. So I would only recommend looking for a 15-minute confirmation coming off of that zone, and that is it. Because if you look, we're basically in this trading range right now, so it actually would be best to break above that range before getting in long, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with looking for a 15-minute confirmation coming off of that 4-hour area of demand. So now looking at the call reports here for USD the past week the banks added 4,000 longs and they also added 2,100 shorts. It's still looking very strong. We still have that daily uptrend, weekly uptrend here. So in my opinion, all signs are pointing to the upside. I think we just need to be a little bit cautious and look for confirmation in here. And if, let's say, we start to trend up, at least wait for this high to be removed. And whatever zone is left there, we'll have that for the YouTuber Patreon members, and we can look to take a trade off of that 4-hour area of demand once it's created, if it is created. So just need to wait on our toes here on USD, but longs are still definitely the best thing to be doing. GBPUSD forecast. The past week, the banks added 4,400 longs and they also added 7,500 short positions. And if you look at this overall chart here, what's one thing you notice? Well, in my opinion, the weekly chart is downtrending, the daily chart is downtrending, the 4-hour chart is downtrending. So I am only looking for short positions. That's all I can say. So with that being said, let's hop to a 4-hour chart now that we know that the weekly and the daily chart are down. So the only setup here I see on the pound is this little 4-hour area of supply right here. So one thing you could do is you could look for a 15-minute confirmation coming off of that supply zone, something like that. And the reason I only see this setup on the pound is because if you come over to a 1-hour chart, we already reacted off of this 1-hour supply zone. We got a nice little move here, almost would have been stopped out, but we got a nice little move down. But clearly the momentum is picking back up on the 1-hour chart. So I think we're going to start to see the 1-hour start to break up, but then pull right into that 4-hour area of supply that I just showed you guys. So that's why, like I said, the only setup I see that's possible is this 4-hour area of supply in the pound. And other than that, there's really not too much else to say. I do not really recommend getting in long based on the strong downtrends on the higher time frame. So I would just set an alert at that 4-hour area of supply, and that would be a great start to possibly look for some short positions. All right, USDCAD. The past week, the banks added 4,200 longs and they got rid of 528 short positions. Just want to show you guys quick on this screen right here. We have a weekly uptrend and we have a daily uptrend. So in my opinion, longs are probably the only thing to be doing right now. We had a little bit of a 4-hour downtrend here, but we actually broke very strongly above it. And I talked about how we needed this supply zone removed before getting in long. Unfortunately, there was no zones right here for us to get involved to the long side in. The only zone I see is this little 4-hour area of demand right here. It's a very poor quality zone in my opinion. Yes, you know, the move's up, blah, blah, blah. The move is really fast up, but it's a very obvious zone. So all I would recommend is looking for a 15-minute confirmation coming off of that demand zone. Other than that, what I am personally looking for is for this 4-hour trend to continue. We couldn't, I guess technically it did break above that, but what I'm looking and waiting for to see is something like this happen, where the 4-hour, 1 hour, and 15-minute will start to trend, and then you can start to set and forget trade, day trade, like 15-minute or 5-minute charts. So I'm not really seeing too much here on USDCAD. I do not like this zone. It's very possible we could see a move up from here. But what I would actually rather see is a new zone formed up here where we could get involved like that, because that just proves to me, you know, that this overall momentum is going to continue up. If you pull back down to here, it's looking pretty weak, at least on the 4-hour time frame. But overall, the weekly and the daily chart are trending up. So in my opinion, longs are pretty much the only option right now. AUDUSD forecast, and in last week's forecast, I talked about this 4-hour area of supply here. Said you could definitely look for a short in here, and look at the move we had from my supply zone down here. So just wanted to point that out to you guys, show you guys, you know, these forecasts are pretty accurate, and that's not to brag or anything. I'm just showing you guys, you know, evidence of that, and I think that's very important. And when you're watching somebody's weekly Forex forecast, so if you got a trade off of that from last week's forecast, congratulations to you. Looking at the call report for Aussie dollar, the past week the banks got rid of 1,265 longs, and they added 3,376 short positions. Just want to get an overall picture of the Aussie dollar here. We're clearly downtrending on the weekly and the daily chart, so I would only be looking for shorts. The only problem with that is we actually had the one trade right here off of that supply zone. We had another one right here, got a nice little move down, but ultimately it looks like it's going to break. This 4-hour downward momentum is, to me, looking like it's going to break. So I do not see any setups here in the Aussie dollar at all just yet. I think it's actually best if we wait for a new supply zone to be formed like this, where we could look to possibly get in short right there. Other than that, I just do not see many setups here in the Aussie dollar. Yes, you know, if we get a nice move up from here and we break this supply zone in the downward trend line, it would be a nice little 4-hour zone that accomplished that. But the problem with that and getting in long in the Aussie dollar is you'd be trading against not only this weekly downtrend, but also a daily downtrend. So in my opinion, it's much best to be looking for shorts. We just need to wait for a high quality zone like this one that we already took a trade off of here. Other than that, I would just wait because I just don't see too much going on here on the Aussie dollar, but it's still looking very weak. Just need to kind of sit on our toes for a little bit and maybe trade another pair this week. USDCHF forecast. The past week, the banks added 239 longs and they got rid of 1,300 short positions. Looking at the weekly chart here, it's technically up. The daily chart is kind of all over the map. It is sideways. But one thing I do notice is that we have a very nice 4-hour uptrend right here. It's not a great uptrend. In an uptrend, I usually like to see bigger moves like this. But in my opinion, it is basically an uptrend. At least momentum is up. So what you could be doing right now is set and forget trading on the lower time frame. So since we have a 4-hour uptrend, we have a 1-hour uptrend, what you could be doing is looking for 15-minute or 5-minute set and forget trades. So what that's going to look like is if you hop down to a 5-minute here, let me see if I can do that. 5 months, no, I don't think they're going to let me do that right now. Anyways, I'm not going to change time frames, but what you want to see is momentum to continue up, break this high, and if there's a 5-minute zone right here, you could look to set and forget trade that to the long side. Other than that, there's really not too much to talk about here on the USD Swiss. Getting in long on a 1-hour or a 4-hour chart is pretty risky. And why do I say that? Well, it's because there's no trend in play here at all on the USD Swiss. So with that being said, I think it's actually much better to just day trade this one to the long side. Like I said, 15-minute, 5-minute charts, or even the 1-minute chart is completely fine. All right, on to crude oil. The past week, the banks got rid of 1,100 longs and they added 18,000 short positions. Now, I marked this daily demand zone a long time ago, back in March or somewhere around there. And look at the reactions we've had from it. We had 1, 2, 3, almost 4. Now we're coming in for this 5th test. So keep that in mind as I go over oil. Daily demand is in control, although Technically, this demand has now turned into a support level, and this is resistance up here. And we're just kind of trading through this trading range right now. So with that being said, let's go to the lower time frames. But remember, daily demand is in control. And if you do get in long, which is I can't stress this enough, since daily demand is in control and the weekly is in an uptrend, I only recommend, and nothing is trading advice, but the only thing I would be doing is looking for longs, and your profit margin could easily be up to this daily supply right here, where you're just trading to the next part of the trading range. So with that being said, let's go over to a 4-hour chart. So the confirmation we're going to need to possibly, look to get in long is the removal of not only this supply, but this downward trend line as well. So if we get something like this, and there's a 4-hour demand zone here, that would be your trading setup. Now, if this downward trend line is removed, let's say that it's removed, but we react off that 4-hour supply zone and we don't break it, but we're left with a 4-hour demand zone here. I will have it for the YouTube and Patreon members. You could definitely possibly look to trade that confirmation, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little more risky. Like I said, it's much better if we get this supply removed and the downward trend line removed. So if that happens, whatever 4-hour zone, like I said, I'll have for the YouTube and Patreon members, and you can possibly look to get involved coming off of that 4-hour demand. And like I said, I don't recommend getting in short based on daily demand being in control and this very strong overall weekly uptrend. So just got to wait for that 4-hour confirmation. And remember, if you don't know what confirmation is, check out the trading tips playlist. I think I already mentioned it earlier, but just want to make sure you guys are getting the best information possible. So hopefully that makes sense on oil. And remember, if you guys have any questions about this analysis, don't be hesitant. Just leave a comment down below and I will respond to every single question. So hopefully you guys understand what I'm talking about here on oil. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there and hope to see you in the next video.